Hello and welcome to our Alumni Spotlight podcast. My name is Autumn Granza, and I work to tell the amazing stories of our students and alumni here at Penn Foster. Today I'm talking with Neha, Taneja, who graduated from our Vet Tech program in 2019. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Autumn. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Of course. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk with us. And I know a little bit of background on your story, and it's incredible, and I can't wait to just dive right in. So let's go. What were you up to before enrolling with Penn Foster?
So I've been working in the veterinary industry since 2008. I completed my undergraduate degree while working as an assistant and technician and worked my way into management in 2014. So throughout my career, I've been working hands-on at a veterinary hospital and completing additional schooling and education just to keep learning. And in 2017, I believe it was, I worked for VCA. So VCA and Penn Foster have a agreement where certain people can qualify for the Penn Foster Student Scholarship. So I decided that I wanted to apply. And one of the driving factors for applying to vet tech school was around the fact that a lot of Virginia laws are changing as to what technicians and assistants can and can't do. And so I never wanted to find myself in a position where I had the skills to help a pet, but due to legal regulations, I wouldn't be able to use those skills. So that's what drove me to enroll in Penn Foster and complete my technician degree.
That's great. Yeah. And you didn't want to find yourself in that situation, which is totally understandable. So you've been working around animals for quite some time. And how did you come to the decision that you wanted to work hands-on with animals other than the licensing and degrees?
Sure. So it was actually a fluke. All my life as a kid, I wanted a dog and, begged my parents for one, and they were like, no, not right now. It's not the right time. And then finally we got a puppy. Her name was Heidi. We adopted her in 2003 and took her to the vet for her first exam. I was only 13 at the time, so I was too young to have a job. But when we took her to the vet, I was always curious about what happened when she went to the treatment room, since, at that time, a lot of veterinarians didn't do much other than the exam in front of the client. So as I got older, and of course she had her annual visits and emergency visits and whatnot, I was more and more curious about what happened when she went to the back. So in high school, I was actually given the opportunity to go out and seek an internship as part of my graduation requirements and for a career that I would potentially be interested in. So I asked the medical director of the practice I work at now if I could shadow him for 3 weeks and do any duties that he thought fit or would add to my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that right before graduating high school. And while I was there, the receptionist and the technicians encouraged me to apply for a job, and so I did. And then when the summer was coming to an end, I hadn't heard back, so I reached back out to see if they were still hiring and landed my job, and the rest kind of was history.
That's great. And for our listeners, can you tell a little bit about where you work now and what you're doing?
Sure. So I work for VCA as a licensed technician on a part-time basis. What I basically do at the clinic that I'm at is I triage appointments. I help the doctor with his follow-up calls, do any sedated procedures that may need to be done that day to fix a ruptured anal gland, or if there's an abscess or a pet that maybe has a broken nail and won't cooperate, that we have to sedate and treat. We also do a lot of client communication, callbacks, prepare treatment plans and estimates. And yeah, we do pretty much a lot of appointments and routine stuff, but also see, our dermatologic cases, ear infections and things like that.
Yeah. And how do you feel your Penn Foster education helped prepare you for that role and those tasks you're assigned?
So I definitely feel that the Penn Foster experience was really empowering. A lot of things that I learned on the job were more like functional things, and I was trained more with like the dialogue and some background information as to disease processes and things like that, but not really the in-depth medical knowledge that I learned in the classes. So I feel like on the job training really equipped me to function at a high level in my job, but then having Penn Foster's education just kind of solidified, why pets might have certain diseases or what may cause certain things versus having to, you know, get online and look it up real quick or read an informational handout. It kind of just put the missing pieces together for me.
Yeah, that's great. And how did you like pursuing an education online, and how did that work for you?
It worked really well, actually. I love school and I love learning. So being able to complete Penn Foster's program, which was, at my own pace, and also work full time, really gave me a wholesome experience that I don't think I would have been able to connect the dots if I wasn't in school and working full time at the veterinary clinic when I was enrolled. It just, when you read something in the textbook or on the online course, and then you could go to work and apply it or question the veterinarian, like, hey, I learned this in my class. What are your thoughts on it? Or how would you navigate this in like a real world situation versus just in a textbook? So I'm very grateful that it gave me the flexibility to attend school, complete my class, and also work full time.
Yeah, that's great. And that hands-on experience is so important. How was your managers or doctors and the clinic that you work at? Were they supportive, and how did they support you throughout the process?
They were actually very supportive. So I was managing the clinic while I was completing my courses, and my boss at the time, he didn't work directly in the clinic, but my medical director was very encouraging, and if any situation arose that wasn't maybe very common, like he would make sure to grab me and show me what he was doing so I could learn from that. And as far as like management, they encouraged me the whole way and provided any support that I needed. And the other really neat thing was that the technicians and assistants I worked with, they were always willing to help me as well, just either with like the filming of certain skills or, any assistance that I needed. They were right there with me to help me get through that.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm sure it's so important, especially as you're learning new things in school and then applying them to the real world. I'm glad that they were more than willing to able to help out and explain things and show you things. How did you find motivation? As an online learner, we often talk about staying motivated and progressing through your studies. How did you stay motivated, and what are some tips that you can give to students?
So I definitely want to say motivation is a huge piece, because you do hit those roadblocks where you're like, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore, or I've done a lot, I'm tired. And I've seen a lot of students who start the program and kind of tailor off. But what was really nice about my clinic is that we had a group of individuals who were enrolled in technician school at the same time. And so having that support network was really great, because we could talk about what stage we were in the program, what was coming next, study together, or just bounce ideas off of each other. And I think having that type of learning environment where you have other students with you in your place of work or in your like close network, that was really motivating for me. And we all just kept cheering each other on and encouraging each other to take the next step or take the next course. And if we had any roadblocks, we could openly talk about it. So I know like Penn Foster has the online community as well. I didn't personally use that too much because I had an in-clinic network that I was able to rely on. But being able to reach out to others who are in the same position as you and talk about these things really helped.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm happy to hear that you had a supportive group there. And that's great that you were able to all work through your studies together. We always stress that you're never alone, even though you're studying online. So while you found people in person, I'm glad you mentioned the community, because the vet tech community is really huge at Penn Foster, and definitely a lot of support within that community. So So that's fantastic. So after you graduated, you sat for the VTNE. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience and how that went for you?
Sure. So the VTNE is, I believe, like a 3-hour, 170 question exam that veterinary technician students would sit for to become licensed. So after completing the technician degree program, I studied for the VTNE for about 3 to 4 months, I believe, and preparing for that was actually, I felt like, more challenging than completing the degree program, just because there's so much that you learn in the 2 years that you complete the program, and being able to become experts or know about different systems, different species, different diseases. That was definitely challenging, but there was an online program, I can't remember the name, I think Penn Foster actually recommends it when you're studying for the VTNE. I used that, and it was like a flashcard based study system, and then I also had the books that Penn Foster provided at the end, which helped me study for the exam.
That's great. And obviously you passed, so congratulations on that. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. So how do you feel that Penn Foster helped you take the next steps within your career?
So Penn Foster definitely allowed me to become licensed, without which I wouldn't have been able to do. And I have all of my textbooks and references that I can always go back to at any time. I definitely want to say that the externships, I think, were probably the most valuable part of the whole program for me personally, because I was able to go out into the field. I mean, I was already in it, but I was able to go out and reach out to other practitioners and clinics, especially for like the exotics and large animals, to complete my skills there. So it just allowed me to build a broader network and learn different things about different species. And that's probably an experience I would have never sought out on my own if I wasn't required to do it in the program, since I was pretty comfortable where I was.
Yeah, that's great. And it definitely made you, I'm sure, more well-rounded in your field. So that's fantastic.
And I definitely want to say it did make me feel more confident around my knowledge and skill set. So that was a huge plus.
Thank you. That's so great. Thank you for sharing that. And what would you tell a friend who's considering maybe enrolling in Penn Foster, or even someone at work that may be able to take advantage of the partnership with VCA?
So I've definitely dealt with that. I would definitely encourage those who work for an organization or a company that offers the Penn Foster Scholarship to go for it, because the huge benefit that, for example, like VCA offers, and I think there's a lot of talented people in the profession who have all of the skills, who have the knowledge. They just may not have their license, which is unfortunate. But I think with the way times are changing and how veterinary medicine is becoming more and more, I guess, serious and comparable to human medicine, I think the licensing structures are going to continue to change. And so it would be unfortunate to see a lot of these skilled professionals not be able to use their skills because they don't have a license. So I would definitely encourage anybody who is enrolled and may have stopped their studies or has the opportunity to seek it out. And on top of that, if anyone is considering veterinary technician school, I would highly consider obtaining some real world experience and pursue a job in the industry, either prior to enrolling in tech school or during tech school, just to make sure you understand what the job would entail and how your role functions in a veterinary hospital.
Yeah, that's great and definitely very helpful. And I like that you brought up too that licensing and things can be changing, because it's so true. And it would be unfortunate, like you said, for people who have the experience to not be able to practice. So that's definitely important. What would you say to maybe an alumni or recent graduate or someone who's recently graduating about breaking into the vet tech field and maybe finding a job? Like, what would your advice be to them?
So my advice for anybody who is a recent graduate, maybe pursuing a job in the vet field, I would advise you to really look for a clinic that supports your growth. I think having a supportive network and management and other support employees who encourage you to grow and use your skills to the best that you can, and they don't just just because you're a licensed technician, they leave you on your own and they're like, okay, you should know how to do everything. But really seek out a supportive network and supportive environment where you can continue to grow and thrive and not be limited by maybe any restrictions that might be present in the clinic. I would still encourage veterinary technicians to find a place that promotes that growth.
Yeah, that's great advice. And something I would love for you to share. I know you're doing some amazing stuff at work, but you're taking it a step further and you're writing a book, and that's incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So last year in 2019, I decided to take a step back from my full-time position as a hospital manager because I was getting a little bit burned out, and I think it was time for me to just step back and reevaluate what I really wanted out of the veterinary profession. I was moving further away from focusing on patient care, which is really where my heart was. And so over like 6 months after I stepped down from that role, I continued to work as a licensed tech on a part-time basis, and I just kept thinking about the profession and how we could make it better. And there's a lot of people in the industry like me who've been there 10, 15 years and reach a point where they don't know what else to do and are overwhelmed with a lot of the topics that we hear about now, like compassion fatigue, job burnout, job satisfaction. And I took it upon myself to explore writing a book. So my husband actually attended Georgetown for his master's degree and had a class with a Professor Eric Custer, who leads this class on book writing. And so I spoke to him back in 2017 about potentially writing a book, but I didn't have the time then. And so I reached back out to him just about maybe a year ago today. And I was like, hey, Professor Custer, I'm still thinking about our conversation from 2017 about writing this book about the veterinary industry. Talk about these challenges that we face openly and discuss ways how we can transform it for the future. So I decided to take the plunge and enrolled in his class and have been writing since early this year. My book is titled A Paw Partnership and is expected to publish in December of 2020.
That's fantastic. And where are you publishing, and where can people buy it if they're interested?
So it will be available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all of those platforms. And early next year, I plan on releasing an audiobook as well.
That's so great. That's incredible. And congratulations on that accomplishment. And please definitely share once it's published. I would love to see it and take a read. That sounds incredible.
Of course, I'll definitely share that with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. So we're about to wrap up. I just have 2 more questions for you. How does it feel to be a Penn Foster graduate?
It feels great. I'm definitely one who likes to collect degrees and certifications and things like that. So just being able to say that I'm a licensed technician and I completed the schooling and sat through the VT&E it just makes me feel proud, and I feel like I can continue to advocate for pets and communicate with clients on how to take the best care of their companions.
And last question to wrap up this fantastic interview. What are 3 words to sum up your Penn Foster experience?
I would say my Penn Foster experience was fulfilling, wholesome, and it was just wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole journey and getting through all of it.
Well, Neha, thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it. You seem like an incredible person, student, employee, and all around just a great person. Thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing more about your book and seeing it published.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed speaking with you.